Hey everybody, welcome back to Superhuman Customs. I'm Stephen Human. On this channel, I just customize figures. Anything I want to do, sometimes they're cool, sometimes I completely screw up, but we're all here to have fun and to just learn new stuff. Today, I have a figure that's kind of a makeup figure. Well, not a makeup figure, it's just a leftover figure. So I got the head from this blue Flash and I used it on my super soldier, right? And then I had this head, which originally was the head for the Superman 1 million, but that ended up being just too small. He looked really, really small in the body, so I did a different head on that one. And I just put them together just for the heck of it, because I had nothing else to do with these things. I just popped his head on and was like, huh. Well, so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna turn this guy into an Electro Superman. So, you know, from the 1990s when Superman had electric powers, that's what we're gonna do. This figure is really weird. He's got a really thin waist. It's just odd. So I figured I'm gonna make him into something that's gonna push my creativity a little bit, but that if I completely mess it up, it's not that big of a deal. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna use something new today. So one of you viewers pointed out that I should try this putty, this resin paste. And so we're going to try it today. It'll dry much more plasticky, and so that's what we're gonna do for his symbol. So again, this is full experimentation. It could be an absolute disaster. I hope it's not, but if it is, I'll learn something. So let's dive right in and see if we can turn this just throwaway figure into something that we can be proud of. I've had this guy soaking for a minute. I'm gonna pop the head off because I'm gonna need it off. That's nice and simple. And then we're gonna peel off his symbol here. Another great thing about McFarlane's, as you guys know, is that this sort of stuff tends to come off fairly easily. You can use your finger. If that doesn't work, then you can go ahead and just use, you know, like a pair of pliers or something, and it should come right off. Experiment time. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of this milliput. I'm supposed to get a little bit of each part, equal parts, and mix it together. A little bit too much there. And so I'm just going to get a little bit here. And I'm supposed to mix it for about 5 minutes. I'm not gonna know. I don't know if I'm gonna give it the full 5 minutes. This is a little bit. It also said to use gloves, so I'm using gloves just to be safe. But I'm just gonna mix it. So let's speed this up. This is boring as frick, just mixing this up. Mixing it up. All right, it said to do it until it looked uniform. It looks uniform. So we're gonna do our first test here with the symbol. So I'm gonna pop it in here and then wipe it away. And just get it into the, so that it fills up that area. And doing this with gloves is not fun. It is not fun, I'm not gonna lie. All right, there we go. It's in there. And it's gonna take a few hours to dry, and we'll see if it serves its purpose, and then we'll start adding in all this other stuff. So this is a good experiment right here. While we're here, I've got a little bit left over here. I'm gonna thin it out, just roll it, and we're gonna see if I can add one of these lines just to see how it'll look, since this is kind of the experimentation moment. So I'm just gonna kind of go like this to have it be his, the start of the symbol here. So let's see how that looks once it's done. Now before it dries, I'm realizing this is too thick, so I'm gonna cut while this is wet, before it dries, and get it exactly how I want it. I'm just gonna cut straight line here, peel this off. I can maybe even add it here. I don't know. This is cool. This is really kind of cool, playing around with this stuff. I'm really excited to see how this turns out. Just to see if this works kind of the way that I want it to. I don't know. Again, this is all experimentation. That's the funnest thing about it. Of course, now I'm messing around with it without the gloves, so we'll see if I regret that. Cool, cool. It is hard as plastic. That is great. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna just sand this down a little bit just to make it so that it edges. A lot of this obviously is gonna be covered by his symbol. Now what I've decided to do is I'm actually just going to add the stuff, the putty stuff, all up here and then cut out the sign. So I actually wish that I hadn't done this. So in the future, remember, just put it all there and then cut it out because I think that's going to look better. But this is looking pretty cool. I mean, it is hard. Like, it doesn't feel like clay. It feels like plastic. I love it. Got that smoothed out. Now we've taken the putty stuff and I'm going to fill in here. So we're going to fill in this space here and hopefully get it so that these two kind of blend together, and I'm getting texts, and that's okay. I'll answer them in a minute. I'm gonna fill all this in, and then we'll cut out the symbol. I'm also gonna do it on the arms, but we'll use what I've got right here. I'm not sure if I made enough for the arms at this point. And this will be our kind of base for right now. So we're just gonna do this and go from there. It's looking pretty good. It's on there. Now we need to cut out the symbol. I need to look at it. All right, we need to cut the symbol out. You know, I like this. It's better than the clay. It's not quite so grainy. It really does have a good plasticiness to it. I like it. And now we're going to do the head. And I've got more of the milliputty here, and we're just gonna kind of spread it around. You can see I'm not using the gloves this time, and I didn't last time. The reason for that is I don't like wearing rubber gloves. And second, on the last one, it didn't, like, I was afraid it was gonna do something to my skin or something. It did not. So I was able to just put it on and then wash my hands, and it was fine. So we're just gonna mold this around the head and let it dry, just like we did with the body. All right, he's looking pretty good. I've added some sections in here just to thicken out the waist because the weight was so thin. Now we're just gonna go through with some sandpaper and we're gonna smooth out all of this stuff as best we can and hopefully make it look really good. So that's your next step, is just to go through and smooth out everything here. I'll probably pull out my my files and do some of that. But for now, this will work a little bit. And the head looks like he's wearing a football helmet kind of right now. So let's file this down too and get it nice and thin. It might take a little while when going through this process to smooth everything out. And oftentimes you're not gonna see the flaws until it's painted, and that's unfortunate. You know, you'll think, oh, it's perfectly smooth. And it's not. So the key is just to get it down so that the shape of everything is looking right. So it doesn't look like he's got a helmet on. And then hopefully it's thin enough at that point that you will be able to spray paint it and make it look nice. And that's our next step. Before we spray paint this guy with the primer and the white, one trick I've learned is to sand down some of these joints where they're gonna rub. And so I did it on the little, little circular things that go on here already, and I'm just gonna go over real quick on these and just kind of sand them. That'll give a little bit extra space for the thickness of the paint, because honestly, the paint has thickness. And this will help it so that it doesn't rub off, that the paint has some room. So this is something that you guys should start doing because it really does help. Prime time. This is where things are really gonna start to come together, man. When he starts looking white. He is now dry, and we're gonna start on our blue. We're just gonna use our acrylic true blue that we've used on so many other figures because it's glossy, it's awesome. And I'm gonna follow the same mandate that I've had on all those other ones, is that I'm going to move the paintbrush in the same direction so that it goes on and doesn't have any streaks. And as always with this paint, you want to put it on nice and light. You don't want to go too dark, too much, because then, you know, so often if we do that and we go on with a lot of paint, it just gets clumpy. And you don't want that clumpy look. You want it to look as if the plastic is just that color. This might require a second coat, but for now, I'm just gonna do nice and light. This is the part that I really love. When you start doing stuff that really changes the look of a figure. You know, when each paintbrush really brings out what it is that you're doing, that's a lot of fun for me. All right, so he's dry now, but you can see how it's kind of blotchy, so we're gonna go over it with a second coat. Great thing about this paint going on nice and thin is when we do it over blue, it turns out so amazing. So just another nice light coat ought to fix it. While we're letting everything dry, let's go ahead and get the head. And this is just going white over everything. I mean, at least for now. I'm gonna start with white. And obviously his face is gonna need to be turned a little blue and his hair is gonna be turned a little blue, and we'll go from there. Just going through and touching up some of the white, because you can see that it didn't cover very well in a lot of places. So let's just go through and whiten those up. We hit the symbol. And just like all the other symbols we've done, you gotta be careful, but you also have to realize that you're gonna get some on the edges, and that's okay. You're gonna go back over after the fact with the other color, because it's better to be precise in here and then to clean up any slop than to be too careful and not have it give full coverage, because then it will look amateurish. And we get enough amateurish stuff in my stuff. So whenever we can do anything professional, we wanna make sure we're doing it. While I've got the blue out, I'm just gonna do his face. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep the paint that I've got on the brush right now, and I'm just gonna move it around. So I'm gonna try and make it so that it gets moved and there's not as much, so it's not as dark. And that, you can make it work. I mean, because he obviously has blue skin in the comics. And this way we can just kind of lighten it up a little bit, but have it match. And so I'm just gonna keep moving this around and hopefully get a good amount of coverage on this blue. And if it doesn't work, well, you'll be the first to know. I added a bit of lighter blue. I mixed it with some white, and I might do another wash on that. But while we're here, I'm gonna go over the hair with this blue. And I'm gonna try and do the same thing where I spread it around so that it comes out a little bit darker. I don't want all of this stuff to be the same color. I want things to look different and unique. And this paint might be just too thick to do that. But it's all experimentation, so just play around. Do what you gotta do. What I'm doing right now real quickly is that I've put a little bit of the blue and I've really watered it down. And I'm just going over the top of the paint of the blue in order to just make everything look more uniform. It was getting a little bit blotchy, and this is a good way to kind of clean that up because you're getting a really, really light coat. I wish I'd done it with the face, honestly. I should have done it with the face because then the face would have turned out a little bit lighter, which is what I wanted. I didn't think of that until after I was done because this is thick paint. But you can see it is uniform. It's making everything look a little bit more uniform. And that is exactly what I'm going for. So a little bit of water in your paint loosens things up and allows you to get a more even coverage. That looks really, really good. Much better than it did just a few minutes ago. Using my magnifying glass, we're gonna get his eyes. And I'm using one of these crappy brushes that I've got that are basically just a point. And I'm just gonna put very, very little in here. I want these eyes to be small because the eyes are pretty small. That looks pretty great. I've got barely any paint on here at all. And that's about what I want. With that eye, let's go on to the next one. This is where precision really pays off, and where having one of these cheap magnifying glasses is your best friend. Now I'm just gonna go through with the white and do some cleanup
And we should be just about done. Going over with the watered down blue made a huge difference. So remember, if your paints are going on too thick and you're not liking them, add a little bit of water and it should solve that problem. And even if you're going over the top like I did, where it had already been painted, it really did clear everything out. So I'm really happy with how this guy's looking. Still not perfect, but never will be. But I'm really happy with it. Last thing, we're gonna clear coat this guy. A little bit of pearl, make him nice and shiny. Oh no, ah! Always be careful with that. There we go. Let's do that again. Let's keep spraying him. And with the final touches of adding some electricity to his arms from the Shazam figure, we have our Electro Superman. I'm really happy with how he turned out, and I really like this milliput. That is good stuff. This is all very plasticky. It came out much smoother than the clay did. I'm really happy with this stuff. I'm gonna start using it. I'm gonna start molding more things because now I have an excellent tool to be able to do it. So here is our Electro Superman. A lot of fun to make. You guys do some cool stuff. Experiment, try new things, and you'll have a new figure just like this one. I'm Stephen Human. Remember, check out my novels at stephenhuman.com, and I will see you guys next week on Superhuman Customs.